Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my GH Spoiler channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. General Hospital Full Recap, March 24th, 2026. Marco shocks Joss with confession before he dies. You won't believe what he said. By GH Insider, March 24th, 2026. Monday's episode of General Hospital delivered one of the most jaw-dropping, gut-wrenching hours in recent memory, and Port Charles will never be the same. Grab your tissues, your throw pillows, and buckle up, because today's episode was an absolute masterpiece of chaos, tears, and secrets that have been buried for far, far too long. The confession that changed everything. The episode opened with the sterile, suffocating quiet of General Hospital's ICU. Marco Reyes, the man who waltzed into Port Charles 6 months ago with a mysterious past and even more mysterious ties to the Corinthos organization, was barely clinging to life. The machines beeped, the monitors flickered, and there, seated at his bedside with her jaw clenched and her eyes red from crying, was Jocelyn Jacks. Nobody expected Marco to make it through the night, but what nobody, not even the doctors, expected was for him to suddenly open his eyes, grab Joss by the wrist with whatever strength he had left, and pull her close enough to whisper words that made her go completely, utterly pale. "Joss, the night of the warehouse fire, it wasn't an accident. I started it, and I did it because someone paid me to. Someone you trust." The camera held on Joss's face for what felt like an eternity. Her lips parted, her eyes filled, and before she could even ask the question burning on the tip of her tongue, "Who?" Marco's grip went slack. His head fell back against the pillow. The monitor flatlined. Marco Reyes was dead, and Jocelyn Jacks was left alone in that room, holding a secret so explosive it could detonate half of Port Charles. Carly gets the call she's been dreading. Meanwhile, over at Kelly's diner, Carly Corinthos was pretending to have a normal Monday. She was sipping coffee with Drew, laughing at something he said, looking almost happy. Then her phone rang. It was the hospital. You could watch the color drain from her face in real time. Drew reached across the table. "Carly, what is it?" She didn't answer. She just grabbed her purse and ran. By the time Carly arrived at the ICU, Jocelyn was standing in the hallway, arms wrapped around herself, staring at nothing. Carly pulled her daughter into a hug, and for a long moment neither of them spoke. But viewers at home already knew this hug was built on a lie, and sooner or later that lie is going to blow up spectacularly. Sonny gets suspicious. On the other side of town, Sonny Corinthos was having a very tense meeting with his enforcer, Brick, at the coffee warehouse, because of course he was. Sonny has been on edge for weeks, ever since the rumor started circulating that someone inside his own circle had been feeding information to a rival faction operating out of Miami. Brick laid a folder on the table. Inside, photos, financial records, a burner phone number traced back to someone very, very close to the Corinthos family. Sonny stared at the photos for a long time. His jaw tightened. His eyes went cold, that specific kind of cold that Port Charles has learned to fear over 3 decades. "Get me a name," he said quietly. "A real name, tonight." And Brick nodded and left without another word. Sonny sat alone in the warehouse, and the camera slowly pushed in on his face as the weight of betrayal settled over him like a storm cloud. Someone in his world is about to have a very, very bad week. Willow and Michael, the cracks widen. Over at the Quartermain estate, Willow and Michael had what started as a quiet dinner and ended as anything but. It began innocently enough, a comment about the kids, a disagreement about Wiley's school schedule, but within minutes the conversation had spiraled into the argument they've both been avoiding for months. "You're not here, Michael," Willow said, her voice breaking just slightly. You're physically in this house, but you are not here." Michael stood up from the table. He opened his mouth. He closed it. And then, in the most Michael Corinthos move imaginable, he simply walked out of the room. Willow sat at that dinner table alone, staring at the candles burning between two untouched plates of food. It was one of the most quietly devastating scenes the show has done in years, and actress Caitlin McMullen absolutely nailed every single second of it. Alexis uncovers a bombshell at the Invader. Over at The Invader, Alexis Davis has been quietly pulling on a thread for weeks now that she stumbled onto a story almost on accident involving falsified medical records at General Hospital that date back years. Today, that thread finally led her somewhere she didn't expect, a name she recognized, a name connected to a patient who was supposedly transferred to a facility upstate, but whose transfer paperwork, according to Alexis's source, was completely forged. Alexis picked up the phone and called her contact at the DA's office, but before she could say a word, there was a knock at her office door. She looked up. Standing in the doorway was someone she absolutely did not expect to see, and the episode cut to black. Seriously, show, come on! Fine fights for his reputation. Elsewhere in a hospital, Dr. Hamilton Finn spent the majority of the episode in damage control mode after a formal complaint was filed against him by a patient's family. The complaint, alleging negligence during a procedure last week, is almost certainly connected to the larger conspiracy Alexis is investigating, but Finn doesn't know that yet. Elizabeth stood by his side through every uncomfortable moment, and the quiet, steadfast loyalty she showed him today reminded everyone exactly why this pairing works so beautifully. When Finn finally allowed himself a moment of vulnerability in the break room, whispering, "I don't know how much more of this I can take," Elizabeth simply took his hand. No words, just presence. 10 out of 10. What comes next? With Marco dead and his dying confession burning a hole in Jocelyn's memory, the question now is who paid him to start that fire? The answer, when it comes, is going to rock Port Charles to its foundation, and based on the look in Joss's eyes as the episode faded to black, she already has a terrifying suspicion about who that someone might be. Tuesday's episode can't come fast enough.